Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of Ready Free Professional Wrestling. Of course, I'm the stunning one, and I may have made some slightly poor choices in the Churchill Cup that will be coming up here. I'll talk to you about in a couple of minutes. But first of all, I hope everybody in Canada had a great Thanksgiving. And I'm here with David the Smart Mark. We are the OGs of Ready Free Professional Wrestling. David, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, it's a very sunny afternoon for autumn here in Cambridgeshire. I know it's early in the morning for you, and you've graced yourself and got out of bed to fit in with my time schedule, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure the listeners do. Yeah, it's all right. Not bad for October.
Exactly, David. Jake is away. He'll be back next week, hopefully. But while we're talking about Jake, let's talk about the Churchill Cup here, David, because the rookie almost outshowed us. Our official Churchill Cup standings after this past weekend, somehow I got 9 points, and you two gentlemen tied with 13.
Can I say I actually know how that happened?
Go ahead.
He piggybacked off my selections. It's quite clear.
I think I went too far out on the edge. I was like going, oh, you guys are going to December pick, so I'll do the opposite and hope I can get some points here and there, and boy, that blew up my face.
Well, there were some crucial ones as we did. Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't listen to the show last week, and why didn't you listen to the show last week? There were some crucial results at Bound for Glory that helped myself and Mr. Jake. One of which being Kaz, quite rightly taking the X Division championship. And he's thrown it back in the hut. Spoiler alert, if you've seen the Impact tapings or seen the spoilers, he's given it up. And he's cashing in for a world title shot at a future pay-per-view, which I don't think is a bad choice on Impact's behalf.
David, just hearing about it, I'm thinking that's a cool idea to do. And hey, you know what? Option C has always been there. You just have to be willing to cash it in.
Absolutely. I don't think that's bad booking on Impact's behalf. Hopefully, unlike Bound for Glory, they'll get some people in to watch it.
We will see. So let's go ahead and let's slide over to our control center. We'll bring you up to date on some news that happened last week in professional wrestling.
This is your Radio Free Pro Wrestling Control Center. All the wrestling news you need to know.
Okay, David, let's start off with a very sad story that happened last week after we posted the show. Sara Lee, who was the last winner of Tough Enough back in 2015, she passed away last week suddenly at the age of 30. She left behind 3 small kids and her husband, who was one member of the Forgotten Sons, Leslie Blake, if I remember right, correct, David?
You are correct, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to link the GoFundMe that was started by a friend of the family in our show notes. And the last time I checked this GoFundMe, this is what cheered me up about the situation, because it's a really sad story. They have already raised about $100,000 for the family.
I don't want to dwell on this, to be honest, Sean, because it's a hugely sad story. Just for no other reason than there were 3, as you already ascertained, there's 3 small children left behind. 30's no age. And it's just hugely sad. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, go check out the GoFundMe. Go, and any small contribution is, the family. It's a family that's got the rest of their lives to go, and every cent, every dollar, every pound, every euro, what have you, helps. Yeah, not a nice way to start the show.
I know, but I thought it was important to get the message out, as we can still help this family 100%. During the hardest part of their time. And this story touched me really personally, because if you're a long-time listener to the show, you know that I lost my mom when I was 28. These kids didn't have the lucky chance to have their mom till they were 28. They lost their mom like super early in their lives, and I feel so heartbroken for that fact.
Yeah, we've touched on your story on the show before, and it's just not nice, and heart goes out to everyone concerned, and I hope they see some promising future.
Yes, we like to express our sincere condolences to the family and the friends of Sara Lee, and there's no easy transition to the next story, so we're just going to go ahead and slide over to our next story. In the world of professional wrestling news, WWE has done their season premieres of Raw and SmackDown, and they have changed up their commentary teams. So on SmackDown, you got Michael Cole and Wade Barrett.
Yeah!
Okay, so then on Raw, you get Corey Graves and Patrick, what's his name?
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what? That sums it up, Sean. Patrick, what's his name? It's not often the WWE have scored an own goal recently, but I've got the potential feeling could be one. It's funny actually because this week I listened to Cornette talking about Michael Cole and how saying he was a news reporter when he came into the WWE, and everyone's been praising him recently about, he's got better, he's got better, he's got better. All he's done is he's gone from being an actual proper broadcaster to commentating in the WWE way. But obviously, as you gathered, ladies and gentlemen, I am so happy that Wade Barrett is back. I really am. I like Wade Barrett. I'll never not like Wade Barrett. He could be the worst commentator in the world, but he brings that northern British rawness to what is essentially a North American product. And to be fair, I like SmackDown at the moment. One of the highlights of my week at the moment, but that's that doesn't say much. Raw, yeah. I love Corey Graves. We'll always love Corey Graves. But yeah, this is another new commentator who's got to learn how to forget all broadcasting rules and commentate in the WWE manner.
Okay, it was Kevin Patrick. That's the name I was forgetting about the Raw. But it's Corey Graves and Kevin Patrick for Raw. And he's not bad for his first go at this. Now, before this, he was a backstage reporter and did the Raw recap or talk show the next day after running that Raw. Now, Vince Joseph is on honeymoon with his wife. And he's going to come back, and his new partner is going to be Booker T for NXT.
Oh, I don't know what to make of that, but I hate NXT anyway. So I'll tell you what would have been good. What did you say his name was? Kevin Patrick Kevin. It would have been good to see Robert Patrick coming down the aisle, and we got the Terminator commentating on Raw. I'd have liked to have seen that. That'd have cheered me up.
Okay, so with all these changes, David, the one person who doesn't have a seat at the table anymore is Jimmy Smith, as he's parted ways with the WWE.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to miss him because he brought a real sports announcer feel to the Raw announce table.
Yeah, but Sean, you've just given your own reason for him to be sacked. He was good. Can't have that on Raw. We can't have good commentators who don't commentate in the WWE manner. Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong. He was good. Came from a proper sports background. All right, you know a little bit more about him and historically than I do. But yeah, I didn't mind him at all. And one of the things with the commentators I find is they must be good when you don't notice them. Because if you notice them, then normally it's because they're winding you up and talking complete and utter garbage. But with him, you didn't notice him. He just chipped in when he needed to. And we'll wait and see where we go. At the moment, the product isn't too bad on the WWE side. I have to say, Extreme Rules pushed my boundaries on that, but we'll come on to that.
Okay, let's go on to our next news story. As we're still talking about commentary in WWE, because you sent me a story last week where I gave you a 3-word answer to the story you gave me. It was, what the beep? As Nigel McGuinness has been let go by the WWE. David, I just tell you who was the Raw announce team for Monday Night Raw, and I tell you who was the new person for NXT. I think I can find two seats for this gentleman to be a commentator in the WWE.
Have you got the swear box set up? Have you got the lawyers on standby? You know my opinion on this. You've sort of set me up. I think it's an absolutely disgusting move. McGuinness is good quality. No one knows professional wrestling, possibly Regal, who regularly get behind a mic these days, like Nigel McGuinness. And I think it's just a waste. The only thing is, mind you, he's settled in the States. I don't think he'd even come back to the UK, which will be a shame, because he's obviously, quite rightly, he would go. He's in British legendary, status over here. I think it's poor. I think that's very poor. It's like getting rid of Regal as backstage at NXT. Very poor.
I mean, personally, I thought if you want to keep Nigel McGuinness around, you could send him over to NXT as a coach or something like that, like somebody to control the narrative and creative of NXT. Because the guy has a mind for the business, and he's good on commentary. And like you said, there's you go again. He's good on commentary, so he can't be in this company.
The thing was, when he was very, very first appointed to the commentary team, when NXT got started, Vince didn't want him because he didn't think his accent would fit the product, which I sort of get. But he's so good that he overcame that. And to be fair to him, he put some effort in. He slowed himself down, and he made the effort to be better on comms. And he is. He turned out to be really, really good. And, they just cast. And we'll wait and see how. I don't mind Booker T because Booker T makes me laugh. But whether he'll be able to contain himself with some of the garbage that will go on in front of him in NXT, that might actually prove more entertaining than the in-ring.
Dave, you might be correct on that statement. Let's move over to our next news story, as you gave this to me as well, as apparently there's a certain Mrs. Moxley that might be going to AEW.
Well, yeah, I think this has been long overdue anyway. I think once, particularly now he's signed his 5-year, I think this has been overdue anyway. But you counteracted it with something I hadn't seen, and that allegedly she's got a job at the Bengals as well. Is that right? Is that confirmed? Where are we at with that? You're the...
Renee has signed a deal with the Cincinnati Bengals to host a show. I don't know if it's going to be a podcast or it's going to be like a pregame TV show, but that has been inked. And you sent me that story about her going to AEW, and I'm going I can see it, but I know we could get rid of a couple people on that commentary team, but her and Regal, that's all you need is her and Regal on that commentary team, you're gold.
There's going to be, there's some obvious thoughts come to strike. She would improve anything. She's a really, really good broadcaster. Her podcast is excellent. Really, really good. And she's strong backstage. She's, wherever you put her, she's not going to let you down. She's certainly not going to embarrass the product. If she's on the actual full-blown commentary team, would you want her commentating on Moxley's matches? How would you get around that? I know we've seen scenarios like that before. I don't know. I certainly think it's been coming. It wasn't a surprise to me to at least read the story, whatever turns out to be true. And I don't think it could harm AEW, to be fair.
No, it can only improve the company. Let's go on to our next news story. As we were talking about AEW, last week as we were wrapping this show up, it was a Wednesday, and I went to Twitter, and I saw Sammy Guevara tweet out something like, "You're just lucky to be here thanks to your dad-in-law." And it took me a second, and I realized he's talking about Andrade. Apparently, Andrade went onto a podcast in Mexico, and he was answering some questions about the backstage environment at AEW, and he said the only person he ever had any issue with one time was Sammy. And apparently, Sammy was upset that Andrade kind of hit him a little too hard in the match, and Andrade during the podcast went, "Well, it's wrestling. If I hit you hard, you can hit me hard." And he started listing off people that he actually were involved in the WWE, like Sheamus. And he went, "Oh, hey, John Cena never had a problem with me being that hard. So if Cena doesn't have any problem with me being hard, why is some young punk will say I hit him too hard?"
There's so many layers to this story. Okay, so I'm going to try and break it down a little bit. The actual interview that you're referring to wasn't, in the modern day terms, wasn't offensive. It wasn't troublemaking. It was just Andrade being open and talking honestly. I don't think he buried Sammy that much in it myself. But this is the big but. You've got Sammy at the moment who is, as we said last week, the common denominator in trouble behind the curtain. Obviously, you had the incident with Eddie Kingston, and now you've got an incident with Andrade. The problem Andrade's had is he's made it perfectly clear he wants out and wants back to the WWE. So he now knows, ironically, he can go up and punch a co-worker and not get sacked. Tony's way of dealing with it was to ask them, please don't fight on Wednesday night. Please don't fight on Wednesday night. And they both went, yeah, we'll be professional. Look what happened. That it ends up in fisticuffs. But, again, a la what seems to be the way, only one man has been punished. Sammy ends up in the main event on the night, which I think was hugely due to the influence of Jericho up at the top end of the company at the moment, because Jericho wouldn't want his main event ruined. And he got the pin over Danny Garcia. It all comes back to one thing, and Jake said it. Tony Khan's lost the plot. He really, really has. He has no control over that locker room. And the punishments he's given out, Andrade, well, he might as well sit at home and get paid. I know that's possibly not what he wants to do. Why can't Tony just let him go? It's not going to impact WWE him coming back. It's not going to detract from AEW him going. All he's doing is setting himself up for more trouble. It's a very, very strange one. Really, really is. But again, it comes back to me to one thing: a lack of control in the backstage locker room. It's getting to the point that he's going to have to tell all these guys, stay the hell off Twitter.
You know what? If you watched AEW Dynamite last week, somebody had a sign in the crowd that said, hire a HR expert. And I looked at that and I just chuckled out loud because that was the most true statement I've ever seen.
Yeah, it really is a weird one. The message Tony's sending out to the locker room is, hey, go punch your co-worker you don't like. I'm not going to fire you.
See, to me, this right here with Andrade allegedly throwing the first punch, hitting Sammy, might be the perfect time for Tony to drop the hammer and just go like, you assaulted a co-worker at his place of employment. I'm going to fire you and I'm not going to pay you. And my lawyer's going to work on not me paying you. And I'm going to send you home.
Well, what message does that send out to CM Punk and the Bucks and Kenny? After what happened there, in all seriousness. And also, by all accounts, there was only one person that threw punches, which was Andrade. Apparently, Sammy turtled, to coin a hockey term. He turtled completely and just took whatever was coming to him before it got split up.
Exactly. It's kind of like the genie's been let out of the bottle and Tony's trying to put the genie back into the bottle and he's finding out you can't do that. Because the way to handle this at the start would have been, once you figure out CM Punk was the person that started the fight, you would have let CM Punk go. And it seems like he doesn't want to do that.
No, I don't think we'll see Punk in an AEW ring again. I really don't. I think Punk will be the one. But Tony's going to have to pay him a whole lot of money. I'm telling you now, because Punk's a clever bloke.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been your Control Center for this week's episode of Radio Free Professional Wrestling. David, why don't we go into some stunning 6 questions as we watch AEW Dynamite, Extreme Rules, and I watched Monday Night Raw, so I have a ton of questions for you.
It's time for the stunning 6 questions. All the whys and what have they done now?
Okay, David, first stunning question. Going back to Extreme Rules, we had a SmackDown Women's World Title match that had Ronda Rousey versus Liv Morgan. And unfortunately for me, Liv Morgan did not carry the day. Ronda Rousey won by submission. Did this feud do anything for Liv Morgan?
No, not at all. To be honest, it didn't do a lot for Ronda Rousey either, because it should have just been crushed. Liv Morgan should have never got any. You talk, this is where we know. Sorry, me, you, Jake, everyone, we all know how sports entertainment works. We all know how even professional wrestling, as we would prefer to call it, works. But sometimes there's just something that's so unrealistic that you have to play it as normal. And this was one of those scenarios with me. You've got the baddest woman on the planet, former UFC multi-time champion Ronda Rousey. She should have just crushed her. It should have been that WrestleMania moment with Sheamus and Daniel Bryan. It really, really should have been. And didn't do either lady any favours. Ronda looked uninterested as well for me in the match. Don't know whether that was just me, but Ronda didn't look bothered.
To me, the match drug along a little bit too long. They could have cut 5 minutes from that match, and it would have been perfectly serviceable as a world title match.
Yeah, absolutely.
I keep thinking back to how, if you remember in TNA when Taylor Wall faced Awesome Kong the first time and she got that really surprise pin on Kong and it's just like out of nowhere and you had that shocked look. That's how they should have done the first match with Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey, okay? It's a surprise pin. Liv Morgan's like all excited. She wins the title at SummerSlam in a fluke kind of way. And we get to this match and Ronda Rousey just beats her around like a rag doll. And you get some sympathy for Liv because this whole time you're going to keep her a babyface. The biggest problem about this feud was we didn't know if who was the babyface and heel in this dynamic.
No, but that's modern wrestling, mate. Look at Tony. Tony loves a babyface match, and let the crowd decide. And sometimes that doesn't work. Well, a lot of the time it doesn't work. It's what killed Cody.
Now, David, we'll slide over to our second stunning question of the week because I was watching Monday Night Raw, and it was a night of surprise returns. Our first big return of the evening was Brock freaking Lesnar as he comes out and basically lays out Bobby Lashley with 2 F5s and a couple of German suplexes, leading to the fact that Bobby Lashley loses the United States title to Seth Rollins. Are you ready to see Brock Lesnar versus Lashley at Crown Jewel?
No, so the Saudi Arabia shows are normally pretty rubbish. But that said, I probably will watch it and hate myself for it. Right, it's good to see Lesnar. I always like to see Lesnar. I enjoy Lesnar in all forms, heel or face, and the fact he's got that really I couldn't give a crap whether I'm here or not look on his face all the time. But there's not many people. Again, I come back to the Liv Morgan Ronda Rousey point. There are not many people that you compare off and have Lesnar feud with and have it realistic, where you can suspend disbelief. All right, Lashley's one of them. Reigns is one of them. Drew possibly is one. Possibly. There aren't many more. You think about it. They had him destroy Cena about 3 years ago. I think that was Extreme Rules, wasn't it? Where he destroyed him using the stair steps all the time. You know, this is Cena. And Lesnar destroyed him. There's not many people. So if Brock comes back, which I get it, Crown Jewel, the Saudi Arabians want to see the big old stars, so Lesnar, old bugs will probably be back, you know. But there aren't many people who can feud with him. So you're rehashing old storylines just for a one-night match. So, no, I'm not looking forward to it, Sean. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I am kind of looking forward to it just for the fact that, hey, you got two big hosses here doing this fight. Now, my issue was, why can't we make this for a United States title and elevate the United States title? As Bobby Lashley has had that title for a few months. He had a few title defenses. But to have Brock Lesnar go after the United States title, and you don't have a world title on Raw right now because Roman Reigns has both, this is how you get that title up to the main event card. Because you have the biggest person in your industry going after the United States title, and that's Brock Lesnar.
That's a great point. That is a really, really, really good point. And do you know what? Because when I haven't seen Raw yet, although I am going to watch it because apparently it wasn't a bad show. When I saw what they'd done, I saw the spoilers and had a look at a couple of clips when I got up. It was like, oh, this. But my first thought was, oh, Lesnar and Lashley again, and that was it. So you've thought a little bit deeper into it, and you're correct. You bang on. It would do, but hey, we'll see what happens. It's Crown Jewel. It's Saudi Arabia. It'll be awful.
Okay, we'll slide over to our third sending question of the week as we go back to the Extreme Rules, and we're talking about debuts. What did you think about Bray Wyatt being the main event and his return being the main event?
Well, you're right there. It was the main event of the show. It was the best bit of the show by head and shoulders. It was the best bit of the show. I marked out completely for it. And you forgot. Now, you want to love this guy. You really do want to like him. I really, really, really hope they don't cock it up. It was hokum, it was ridiculous, it was stupid, but it was good. And I marked out the pop he got was tremendous. People have forgotten about the red light match with Seth Rollins in the cage where you couldn't see what was going on. You know, they were just glad to see him. And that, let's hope they don't muck it up. I've got a funny idea they will, but I want to see him being particularly evil. Go and steal some kids from the crowd. Go and, belt a fan with actually genuinely not make it like, not make it hocus pocus scary or goosebumps scary. Actually make it Halloween, Friday the 13th scary. Genuinely put the fear of God into fans.
Okay, so with his return, there's rumors going around that he's going to be a leader of a new faction, as his Twitter handle has changed over to Wyatt6. So, and there's rumors that the members of this Wyatt6 family is going to be his brother, Bo Dallas, Joe Gacy, Liv Morgan, and Grayson Waller. So how do you feel about this? And how do you feel about this mix of people?
Three of them make perfect sense. I like the Joe Gacy. I think could be good with Bray Wyatt. Bo Dallas, mate, you're perfect sense. And I'd seen Bo was on his way back. Liv Morgan, Yeah, I'll give it a go. They tried it with Alexa Bliss, obviously, and that failed awfully. This is what I mean. They've got to get it, not goosebumps type thing, but real. If they're going to do these scary, hocus pocus, garbage, then they've got to get it proper scared. They've got to get it really genuinely so you're petrified. So not halfway. Let's go for something that genuinely, like, let him abduct a wrestler and genuinely we don't see them, or we see him being tortured. You don't have to literally see him being tortured, but they can have vignettes with the wrestler just chained up, a la Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or a la Hostel, or something like that, and really put the fear of God in the audience. The commentators could play this up. Who's next? Who's next on the roster to go? And really play it up, but they've got to avoid the goosebumps rubbish.
Exactly, David. Now, spoiler alerts here, as I was already seeing Monday Night Raw, the one person who did not come to Monday Night Raw last night was Bray Wyatt. They just re-showed the return from Extreme Rules, and it was kind of disappointing because you had this in Brooklyn, New York. This crowd was white hot, and the only thing they really, really wanted to see was a Bray Wyatt sighting, and they didn't get it.
You're right to a certain extent in the fact it was a really hot crowd in a good venue, but I actually don't think that's a bad idea. When is he going to show up next? We know he's back, but when's he going to show up again? And have him steal someone. Have him just abduct a wrestler. You know what I mean? And that's all you see. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But yeah.
I don't think that is necessarily the worst case, because it would be predictable WWE. You got this big return on the pay-per-view, and then on Monday Night Raw it comes out and it gets fucking ruined. Excuse me, swear box, I do apologise, because I'm getting angry about this already. So in a way, him not showing up just feeds because let's face it, if it had been AEW get a new star, returning star, they'd have blown it all over the keyboard early doors. They wouldn't have built it. At least this way, we've got another week to wait to see whether he might turn up on SmackDown. Everyone's expected him on Raw. He might show up on SmackDown.
Now, they have advertised him for being on SmackDown, so we'll wait and see how that goes.
Have they?
Yes.
Oh, I hadn't seen that. This Friday?
Yes.
Oh, you see? SmackDown viewers, bums on seats.
And it makes more sense because it's on Fox, and Fox is a network channel, so yeah, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we should be booking this show.
Okay, standing question number 4. As we're talking about returns, let's go to a surprise return on Monday Night Raw, as AJ Styles was out there facing Judgment Day, and it appeared that he was going to join Finn Balor and his crew. He hugs Finn Balor, and he tells Finn, "I'm not talking about you. It's not Bullet Club for life." And here come Carl Machine Gun Anderson and Doc Gallows, and the WWE version of Bullet Club, the OG Club, is back together.
Yep, no issue with this, to be fair. We saw it coming about 48 hours before, because even New Japan pretty much advertised it, did some advertising on the WWE's behalf by saying they were gone. We knew they were gone from New Japan. Obviously, they were giving a limited amount of chance to perform in AEW. When the highlight of their run is the Impact Tag Team Champions. I'll leave that with you. I think they're in the right place. I think they're suitable, good muscle for AJ Styles. They've still got a lot to offer for me. So, yeah, fair play to them. And, no issue with that.
And, David, will we get AJ Styles versus Finn Balor in a feud? Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Having drained the Edge Finn Balor storyline as much as I think they can, Finn Balor's doing wonders with that little group. I just love Dom and Rhea. I could watch them two all day. I never ever thought I'd say I love watching Dominic Mysterio, but someone, piece of genius, just piece of genius.
Okay, you remember back in the summer how we were like just railing against the idea of Finn Balor joining Judgment Day after the fact that he lost to them?
Yeah.
And now here we are like 4 months later, and somehow they made it make sense.
Well, 3 letters, Triple H. It's the only explanation.
Okay, studying question number 5. We had a anniversary return on Raw. It was the 25th anniversary of D-Generation X. And David,
Yeah.
it's been 25 years, but they still want to be in the main event segment. It was the main event of Raw, was a talking segment of 4 members of D-Generation X. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Do you know what? It sums things up, to be fair. But I don't, obviously, what I really liked, I like the reference that Corey Graves. I have seen the reference Corey Graves made to a certain member being missing because he's got a match on Dynamite on Wednesday night about Mr. Ass. That made me chuckle, ladies and gentlemen. I won't spoil it, but Corey makes a comment about Billy Gunn not being there, and that made me laugh out loud when I heard that. It was all right. It wasn't offensive. Yeah, it's if we really. I know it's a 25th. Why couldn't they open the show? Just open the show, do a little bit of crap comedy, get on with it, and then get on with it for the rest of the night. But no, they had to. You're right. They had to headline the show.
Well, we did get a good Sami Zayn versus Riddle match before that, and the other thing they were kind of teasing during this whole Riddle and Sami match was a potential break inside the bloodline of Jey Uso. Is Jey Uso going to be the person that turns on Roman and Sami, or is Sami going to be the person that's going to turn on all of them? Is this kind of become this? Who is going to be the person that stabs Roman in the back?
My current thing is I think Jay's going to turn on Sami. Probably Roman will side with Sami, and then that starts the eventual final breakup of the bloodline that can lead into Roman losing the title, finally getting beat. But obviously, we're going to WrestleMania. We're not looking at him losing until April when The Rock gets involved, and you've got so many perfect intertwined storylines of one of the Usos helping The Rock, however you want to go with it. You know what I mean?
Exactly, David. I do believe that the end is in sight for the bloodline, and it would be kind of cool to see the three Uso brothers be the last three standing, and they are the heels that turn on Roman. Because the crowd's got to a point where they fear Roman. Roman can't really be technically a heel.
Yeah, no. I know what you're saying, mate. It's they've got to handle it very delicately, but we all know we're heading towards a WrestleMania headline match of Roman versus The Rock, which that's going to put bums on seats. There's no two ways about it.
Well, you're going to be in SoFi, and that's like a 100,000 seat stadium, so you're going to need a Rock level match to fill that one night of the 2-night show.
Well, it's got to be night two. It's got to be the final event. There's no two ways about it. I'm sure they can come up with a ladies match or another grudge match second tier. But yeah, no, that's got to bring the show home. That's got to bring Mania home on night two.
Okay, David. Sixth and final stunning question of the week. Which match was more surprising in the outcome? Was it the fact that Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho got the pin on Daniel Garcia and Bryan Danielson? Or was it the fact that Finn Balor got Edge to say, "I quit"? Or was it Bayley losing to Bianca Belair in a ladder match?
Right, honestly, oh boy, you picked a scab here, mate. Let me just give you the thought. Jericho, Sammy, Bryan, Dan. I'm not surprised at that booking at all. That was not a surprise, and it's not often a Danielson match that has me nonplussed, but that did. The Edge Finn Balor match was a Cara Noir Spike Trivet I quit match, wasn't it? Really, with the wife involved and the protection of the wife, etc. So I've got no major problem with that. I think it was a satisfying way. Finn Balor had to win that. It was just how to get Edge out of it without losing face, and they did that. Now, unsurprisingly for you, we go on to Bianca Belair versus Bayley, and I despise this match. I've watched it in full, 3 times because I thought I was being unfair on first viewing. It was true, and both of them, I hasten to add, normally I'm down on Bianca Belair, both of them were awful in this match. And I'll just give you one example because it's the one that stuck with me. Leading up to the finish, Bianca Belair gives Bayley, the DOP, the finisher when she flips her off her shoulders face down. I don't know what it is. It's some sure.
Yeah, basically, it's called the Kiss of Death, yeah.
Oh, sorry, KOD, yeah, sorry. Right? But this time it's a ladder match. So instead of laying the ladder on the floor and doing it on top of the ladder, Bayley is on top of her shoulders, holding the ladder to her chest. Go back and watch it, knowing that this move is coming. No, you got any semblance of reason. At least you chuck the bloody ladder away and take it to the canvas rather than landing on the ladder. But no. For about 15 to 20 seconds, while Bianca struggled to get Bayley in the right position, and Bayley could have got down at any point, Bayley held on, clinging to this ladder, so she could take it face first and let Bianca win. It was a poor match. It was poorly booked. The moves were poor. The chemistry was not good, and I'm blaming both of them here. I'm not a fan of Bianca, as I said on the last show, but Bianca, for me, Bayley should have gone over in that match. Irrelevant of the quality, but you know, I can also segue it and say I'll see why they kept it on Bianca. Bianca, for some reason, is very, very popular, particularly with young kids.
Well, David, to add on to this, on Monday Night Raw, Bayley lost to Candice LeRae. So my thing is, this group you had like a month ago was White Hot that was called Damage Control.
Yeah.
Have we forgotten that we just brought them back like a month ago, that they should still be kind of pushed and be a hot commodity? Because that ladder match didn't do them any favors, because another spot in this match that you didn't talk about that left my head scratching was the fact that, Io Shirai and Dakota Kai, Bianca Belair put both of them up on her shoulder, took a minute, does the kiss of death on both of them, take them out of the match. So here's henchmen for Bayley, and they do zero good things for Bayley. You think like, here's the easiest way to book Bayley to win this title and get everybody to boo Bayley is have them take Belair out. She climbs up the ladder, and voila, easy done. You could tie her long ponytail to the ring rope, have Dakota Kai and Io Shirai just beat the heck out of her, and all the time Bayley's just taking her sweet little time going up each run, just looking at her, laughing at the crowd, and grabbing that belt and just soak in the hate.
Mate, I'm glad you don't. Because I sometimes think I'm a little bit unfair when I get bees in my bonnet about certain performers. And I wasn't looking forward to this, but I thought, no, Bayley's in it. We'll see where we go with it. And I'm like, this is horrible. This is really, really horrible. I don't know. It was a poor match. And let's just say it was a poor match. But I don't know who Bayley's upset. You bang on with what you said about Damage Control. We'll see. Because they've got one of their best faces or heels, no matter where they want to go, and they're not allowing her to be what she needs to be in Bayley. I can see why they kept the title on Belair, even though it would have been a perfect opportunity to change the title over. Belair's very popular with a certain age group, and I understand why. Just because she's not my cup of tea doesn't make her someone else's. But that was a poor match, and unfortunately, it really, really stood out.
Okay, David, I'm going to throw in a additional stunning question.
Yep.
Which fight pit match did you enjoy better? Was the NXT fight pit match better than the Extreme Rules fight pit match?
The NXT one. The NXT one, yeah. No, not a doubt. I didn't enjoy the Extreme Rules one. I thought Extreme Rules was a poor card. No, it wasn't a poor card. It was a poorly executed card. Sorry, let me get that right. When the highlight is a return right at the end of the show, and that is the real best bit of a wrestling show, you know you've got a problem.
Well, David, when I first heard about this fight pit match, in my mind, I was thinking, oh, they're going to bring the set from NXT to do this fight pit match.
Yeah, I thought that.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is what I want to see. It's going to be this, like, top level, then the cone going down, and they fight in the cone.
Yeah.
It was basically a steel cage match without ropes.
It was a steel cage match with a little platform all the way around, about 3/4 of the way up. Yeah.
And if memory serves me right, David, you could pin somebody in the NXT version of Fight Pit on that platform.
Yeah.
And Michael Cole and Cory Grace going like during the match, like, that's not part of the area that you can do the pin. I'm like going, yes, it is.
Yeah. You bang on, mate. The NXT one, and I hate to say that, but yeah. I sort of knew, I guess, where they're going to go with it, and obviously, finally, they looking at Raw last night, they've split this feud up, thank God, because Seth needs a belt on him, which obviously, he needs to be up there, and I don't know, they needed another change of character with him, but Riddle, I'm not, considering Riddle's MMA background, I just can't get my head around him, and I've never managed to, and I've really tried to. I've got a Matt Riddle T-shirt for Christ's sake somewhere, but no, not for me.
The only good thing that came out of that Extreme Rules Fight Pit match was the fact that Ken Shamrock liked my tweet before that match.
Look, I'm not arguing with your point. I'm just saying, both myself and Jake can see why, being UFC fans, can see why they use Daniel Cormier and not Ken Shamrock. Your point has validity, but you can see a lot of the kids in this day and age knowing who Cormier was, and not because they're our age knowing who Shamrock was. Anyway, I've got a question for you.
Before you go with that, I will say Damian Cormier did an excellent job as being the special guest referee for that match. He was the most entertaining part of that match for me, actually.
Yeah, that's fair. That's really fair.
So what's your question?
Right. I'm gutted Jake's not here this week. Jake, if you're listening again, hope everything's okay. I miss you, buddy. Have you watched the latest Progress show? I'm sure you have.
I've seen the beginning, so I kind of know what this question is going to be.
Of course you do. And ladies and gentlemen, and I'll give you some background on this. I've been grumbling about this for months now. And my question is, and it goes in reference to Progress, the UK's promotion. Is their ring announcer, Simon Miller, the worst ring announcer in professional wrestling? By far.
David, he started out being okay, but I really feel like he's got locked into certain little tricks and gimmicks to go from match to match, and it feels like it's more about the Simon Miller show than freaking Progress Wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. The latest show when he comes out with all the merch on, shill your merch. And you can see every time he gets his name chanted, he gets about 6 inches taller, which I'm sure that's a perfectly normal and natural reaction. But his delivery is awful. He feels like he's not working. Now, contrast this with the promotion isn't very good at the moment, but ICW's ring announcer, Champagne Simon Cassidy, who is suited and booted, and he is a traditional ring announcer. Because also one thing I don't like about Miller, and I know that's because we're fans of him, and I know why he's doing it, but I just don't like it, is when Spike Travail's on a run as the best heel world champion that you could have going, and he's winning at the moment. He's going around doing the tour and beating all the local heroes, beating the local boys with desperate measures in the last minute heel attacks, and he doesn't announce it properly at the end. He's just going, and it's like he's really angry that Spike's won. And still, your Progress Wrestling champion, Spike Travail. And that's literally how he says it, rather than doing it as a proper ring announcer would. So you compare him to someone like Simon Cassidy, who is a professional announcer, and it ruins the product for me for Progress. And also, one other point, which isn't Miller's fault, and I don't know whether you'd considered this. Miller is a jacked-up fella. He's a big man. He's probably 6 foot plus and put together. He's bigger and more physically intimidating than 95% of the Progress roster. And I don't think you should have that. I think you shouldn't have someone who could be, who looks like he could kick the ass out of all the roster when he's announcing them to come in. I think it should be someone more diminutive. Does that make sense?
Okay, I got a question for you. Why don't we put Simon Miller on the commentary desk for Progress, and the guy who's doing the actual commentary for Progress right now be the ring announcer?
Yeah, I think that's a fair crack. Because if he's next to SoCal Val, who's a wrestling professional, it might calm him down a bit. It might calm him down. He's obviously got knowledge of the backstage stuff. I hadn't thought of that. And put Ollie as the ring announcer. Yeah, that's a good idea. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what I'm talking about and you think that the big lad's gone off on completely the wrong tangent, just watch. Go on the network or Peacock or wherever you get your WWE product. Go into Independence and check out Progress Wrestling. And it's literally, you only have to watch the first 5 to 10 minutes because he comes out, all the shows start the same. He comes out, he introduces the show, and he'll introduce the first match. And I really just don't think he's very good. And he detracts from the program. And then also you add the point of he is a big bloke. He's one of the biggest employees Progress have got. So when he's bigger than half the roster, I don't think it does the wrestlers any favours.
Well, I was thinking about it. During the pandemic era of Progress, they had that wrestler do the actual introduction. Yeah, and he was really good. I enjoyed him. Yeah. I thought they should have kept him in that role in front of the crowd because I feel like his whole mannerisms and his way to delivery would work with a crowd, and we never got to see it.
One other point in the pandemic, or leading into the pandemic, Eddie Dennis did a show when he was injured, when obviously he had to vacate the world title. He did a show, and he was very good as well. I know he's come back now and they've reformed FSU with Mark Andrews. Now Mark Andrews hasn't got, obviously got a contract with NXT UK anymore. So they've reformed FSU, which is great because that's a big time historical progress tag team. The only thing is, when we see it, we can't hear Andrew WK and Party Hard because for some reason there are contractual issues with the music being used.
Well, that explains a lot, because I was trying to figure out why I never get to hear Eddie Dennis's theme when he comes out in Progress. Now that makes sense.
Yeah, they don't. And when FSU, because FSU, I believe, reform, if they haven't had the show, they're about to. I also saw a clip, a little spoiler. Mike Bird, it looks like he's going to be a challenger. If you remember Mike Bird from NXT UK, the Welsh lad, veteran of the British indie scene, he's going to be one of Spike's challengers up and coming. That will be an excellent match because Mike Bird is a technician in the ring.
Well, I can't wait for that to happen. Now the FSU reunion is going to be at Chapter 143, if I remember right, and that should be coming up in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. I love Mark Andrews. Nice bloke. Seen his band live. Great musician. Great pop punk band called Junior. He plays bass and does backing. He's a multi-talented guy. And just a genuinely nice bloke.
Well, David, we are going to leave this episode of Radio Free Professional Wrestling here. Before we go, please go over to Twitter. Follow the show at Radio Free PW. Follow your favorite podcast host at RPW Sean. And David, where can we find you on Twitter?
G Brightly 6 or Big Duds. I'm always available. Hey, join me on my Facebook page, David J Brightly. Come find me, we'll chat.
And ladies and gentlemen, that has been Radio Free for Professional Wrestling. Until we see you next week, have a stunning week.
Cheers, guys.
This is Sergeant Arms of Christina on behalf of the guys. Thanks for listening to today's show. Please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and a review. Until next time, the liberation continues.